Hi guys, welcome to Q&A with Coach Rebecca. I'm Rebecca Smith and I am the founder and director of Complete Performance Coaching. I am here to do a little talk today to swimmers. So every week I come on and answer questions and give my stories and examples so that you, whether you are a coach, an athlete, or a sport parent, can help your athlete increase their enjoyment and their performance. So here we go. And by the way, if you're looking for help in the mental training arena, we are a whole team of awesome sports psychology experts who specialize in individual sports like gymnastics, figure skating, and swimming, as well as team sports like lacrosse, football, soccer, baseball, you name it. If you are between the ages of 8 to 18 and you're interested in improving your performance, then you can check us out at CompletePerformanceCoaching.com. Or if you're more of a do-it-yourselfer, we have an entire online mental toughness training center at PerformHappy.com. So check out either of those options to maximize performance and enjoyment. So today I'm going to give you guys a little case study. I did a one-on-one session with a swimmer not too long ago, and it was a really nice tune-up for this guy who I'd been working with over the past handful of years, actually. And so he came back and was like, hey, I've got this big meet coming up and I really just want to, fine-tune my mental skills. So I figured since there is a big meet, there are actually a lot of big swim meets going on this weekend and this time of year. So I figured I'd give you guys kind of a case study and a crash course in that last little tune-up before a meet. Now, I don't mean that you come to me and you're like, I'm competing tomorrow and I'm a nervous wreck and I have no confidence. Can you fix me? And I do get those phone calls. This is for those of you who have already been doing this work, have already been following the podcast, been watching the videos, been hopefully joining us in the Perform Happy community. I'm going to give you guys kind of like that last little thing that'll ratchet you up to the next level as a swimmer or as an athlete in general. And then also I have a freebie that you can download this week, which is for swimmers specifically, but if you're not a swimmer, you can still check it out. And it's called the 14 Types of Swimmers. And what this is, it's a whole report on 14 different types of athletes, basically. And it says what they need from their support squad. So that's parents and coaches, and then a mental toughness tip for each. So if you're more on the newer end of the mental training spectrum, this might be a good place to go. Check out, who am I in this document? Like, which of the 14 do I fall into? And what do I really need to be focusing on in my training? All right, so on to the case study. Now, of course, I really highly value my client's confidentiality, so I'm going to change some details. I'm not going to use his name, and I'll give you, somewhat of a case study so that you can understand where he's at and what my recommendations were, and hopefully those of you who are competing soon or at any point can benefit from this. All right, so he reached out to me and was like, I need a tune-up. Okay, so the first thing that I did was talk to him about how he was feeling about the pressure. Now, this person over time has had different distractions, and one of them has been other people, which is probably the most common distraction that I see among swimmers, is that they get distracted by who's in the lane next to you, who's watching, what college recruiters are here, what is my coach thinking? But mostly it's those people in the other lanes right next to you that can either make or break your swim. And so my job is to help people, regardless of who's next to you, get your best performance going. Now, you don't want to be the kind of person who can only do well if the person next to you is slightly slower than you or slightly faster than you, because you can't guarantee that. So that's an environment that, maybe you really do thrive when you're just behind somebody, or they're just behind you, or you're neck and neck, or maybe that freaks you out and it makes you go out too fast and then you burn out and you run out of gas. I mean, there's so many different scenarios, but my job is to help you swim your best race, no matter if it's just you in a lane by yourself, or if you've got your biggest enemy or your best friend or people who are faster or slower, or no matter whoever ends up in those lanes, you can swim fast. Okay, so I checked in with him about that. What is your intention? What is your intention for this meet? And so, of course, everybody starts to think, well, my intention is this time to this 100th of a second, this cut, I want to make junior nationals. I want, they've especially in swimming, I would say more than any sport, is so outcome focused because it really is so, subject. I always get subjective and objective. Anyway, the times don't lie. The clock doesn't lie. The clock doesn't change. If you're a gymnast, your 9.5 might mean one thing to one judge and one thing to another. But in swimming, a 2 flat is a 2 flat. That's it. Your time is your time. So of course you go in thinking, I want this time, I want this cut, I want to go this place. I want to qualify for this meet. So it's very outcome focused. And if there's anything that stresses people out more than that, I don't know what it is. So of course I check in and go, what's your intention? He's like, well, yeah, of course I know all my times, but my intention is to go out and show people that I'm fast. And so we checked in about that. Okay, is that about I deserve it, I worked hard, I want to swim fast, or is that I want to prove to people that I'm fast? Because it's different, right? If you're focusing on other people and what they are thinking about you, or what they expect of you, or what they want you to do or don't want you to do, then it takes you out of the ability to be present in your swim and do your best. So we checked in about that. And now for you guys who are getting ready to go swim or compete, what's your intention? Is it all about outcomes? Are you trying to prove something? Are you worried about disappointing people? Any of those things can take you out of the moment. And I'll talk about in just a moment what we want to be focused on. But so we talked about that. And so he kind of weighed it, and his team is on top of mental training, which is awesome. And so they do a lot of work with goals, and they set the outcome goals, and they also set the progress goals along the way of how I'm going to train, and then the performance goals of how I'm going to perform. And I go through all of these in various courses in the Perform Happy community. But so he knows how to set goals. He knows how to focus on times, but then how to let them go at the right time. He knows how, so it's just getting it from, are you going to get psyched out by the competition, or are you going to get brought up by it? So the next thing I did was, let's talk about some of the past successes you've had, the recent past. So for those of you guys who are getting ready to compete, think back to the last time when you nailed it. You got your personal best, you beat that person next to you. Think back to the last time when you were so good. Okay, hopefully you've got one of those, even if it's just a moment in time. It doesn't have to be the whole race or the whole meet. But so he's like, oh yeah, this last meet, it was awesome. So we went through, what was it that made it awesome? What was your mindset? Okay, so he was thinking, well, there were people all around. I was really hyped up. I was super confident in my training, which is another thing that he could apply this to, because the first thing he did when we got on our session was he was like, I'm confident. I want this. I'm going to get it. I put in the work. I'm ready. So I was like, dude, I believe you. That's good. Okay, that's a really good place to start. So he felt that way at his previous meet. He knew that he had put in the training, and then he allowed himself to just trust it and go, I did it. I've done everything I can. There is nothing left on the table. And again, this time he was like, yeah, I got extra private lessons. I've been training my mind. I've been training my body. I've been doing everything I possibly can. So I can fully trust that when I leave those blocks, I have everything I need to do what I would like to do. So there doesn't have to be any self-doubt, and there wasn't. Okay, so that was his mindset. And also he realized that the competition made him go faster. So he was already primed to go fast because he was in really good shape mentally and physically. And then he was seated with a couple of guys who were right there with him who pushed him. And so the difference was, and I said, could you have gotten that cut in a pool by yourself? And he was like, I could have come close, but what happened was those two guys, they pushed me, because there were moments where I was like, do not break stroke no matter what. I have them. I'm ahead. I went out fast, but it wasn't too fast. I have what it takes. And so he caught himself in the moment, in that race, going, did I go out too fast? Can I take these guys? And he was so quick to go, I didn't. I did exactly what I planned to do, and I can handle it, and I will hold it together no matter what. He was so motivated because he had these two guys just behind him that he was like, go. So for him, the competition was like a turbo boost. Now, for a lot of people who I talk to, the competition doesn't have that same effect. It actually has kind of an opposite effect because you're so in everybody else's lane, you're so looking at everybody, worrying, where are they, that you actually make a stupid mistake and botch a turn, or get your stroke count off, or take an extra breath, or you do something that you wouldn't have done in practice because you're so focused on other people. My favorite example of this was in the most recent Olympics. Chad le Clos and Michael Phelps were both swimming butterfly. I don't remember what the distance was. And there's this picture of Chad le Clos looking, mid-stroke, looking over at Michael Phelps. And then Michael Phelps wins by, 0.2 or whatever, by like not that much. And le Clos had beat him previously. And then there was this whole thing about how le Clos was like shadow boxing in front of Michael Phelps during the prep time beforehand. So Michael Phelps has his goggles on, he's got his eyes closed, he has his sweatshirt pulled around his face. So he's completely doing his own thing, and le Clos is like, I want to psych out Michael Phelps. Michael Phelps, Michael Phelps. I want to look at him. Am I beating him? So he was so wrapped up in this guy that it caused him to actually physically change his stroke when he turns his head to look over at his rival. And then he doesn't get the cut, or he doesn't get the gold in this condition. So that's what we don't want. What we do want is for you to be able to go, I'm ready, I have what it takes, I am better prepared than this guy next to me. And I like to know peripherally that they're there so that I remember, oh my gosh, my legs are on fire, but do not stop kicking. So that was, for this swimmer in particular, something that worked really well. So we realized, okay, yes, even though you would swim fast by yourself in that lane, those people next to you, you get in the blocks and you go, thank you and thank you. Thank you for being here, everybody. You are the boost I need to get myself up to that next level. You are the driving factor that will push me over the edge into a personal best. So he saw that and was like, yeah, okay, competition is good. Competition works for me. And that's the key. That's why I have this list of 14 different types of swimmers, because that's not the motivator for everybody. Some people need to be so focused in on themselves that it's as if nobody even exists. Some people need to be definitely aware, but still focused in. Some people need to be repeating a mantra to themselves while they're swimming. Some people need to be completely calm, peaceful, at ease, and just executing one stroke at a time. Everybody needs something different. So that's why I say look back at your recent peak performances and go, what was I doing? What was my mindset? What works for me? And what can I improve? Okay, then there's focus. So ideally, the focus is going to be on just performing. But if you're newer to mental training, or you're more distractible, or you're more stressed, you'll want to have a strategy in place that you can actually pre-visualize. You visualize not only your physical performance, but your mental performance as well. So anything you're saying to yourself or focusing on, you're doing it in your mind with a stopwatch running. That's the key. Now you want your visualization for swimming to be real time. So you will leave the blocks, you will do your laps, and when you finish, you hit the wall and you check your time, and it's the time that you were wanting, or even faster. But it needs to be really close to real time. You need to be able to feel it, smell it, taste the chlorine in your mouth, feel the burn in your legs and your arms, see it from inside your own eyes. And so that's another thing that this particular swimmer I was working with had a lot of experience doing. We'd worked on that in the past, where we'd actually write out his whole race strategy, and then he would record it. He'd do an audio recording that was the right pace. So the turn was right on the right split. The turn was right on the right split. And then he finished and it was the right time. So if you guys are interested, I challenge you to do that. Write out your strategy, exactly how you go into it, exactly what you focus on, exactly what you're really intent on doing as far as your strategy and your technique. Record it, record your own voice at the right pace, and then listen to it. And you can listen to it on the plane on the way to the big meet. You can listen to it in the car on the way to practice. And then also just do it without the recording. Close your eyes, see it happening, and remember your mental strategy. So that this is basically like studying for a test. You cram, you think about it, you think about it, you think about it so much. You think about your technique, you think about your stroke, so that when you get to the meet, you climb in the blocks, You power your brain down because it's already in there. The training is in your muscles, the training is in your mind, and you just dive in. And that is when that's those best performances, is when you just dive in and it all comes together. You're not thinking necessarily, you're not focusing on anything other than just the swim. And you're so present that you can make little adjustments based on who's next to you or who's not. So that's my little crash course in fine tuning, is you want to figure out what your intention is. Now, if your intention is just about times or winning or cuts, the time to use that is in practice. You train your butt off thinking about the time, thinking about the cut. If you need motivation, think about that time. What is the next meet you want to qualify for? Think about the outcomes that you want, and that will push you to that you're tired and it's the end of practice, but you keep going because you want to get that time. Okay, then you get to the meet and your intention is maybe just to go out and have a good time. That's probably the best intention you can set. So you go out and have a good time. This guy's go out and win, and not just like not lose, but win. That was that's what got him going, was I want to not only go and swim fast, I want people to see how stinking fast I am because I trained so hard. And that excited him. Okay, so that's your intention, using the right intention for practice and for meets. Then focusing on the right stuff. If focusing on your competition helps you, great. But for the most part, it's going to come down to technique and mechanics and being present. And going back to those peak performances to make sure that you know what your ideal mindset is. So one more time, you can download that free report at completeperformancecoaching.com/14, and that will give you the 14 different types of swimmers and what each of them needs to train mentally and what their support squad can do to help them. And if anybody's interested in more mental training, you can go to performhappy.com or completeperformancecoaching.com and check out all the options you have. And I will see you again next week. Thanks for joining me.